Should we get started then? So I think we've got most people who are going to join. Thanks everyone for joining this evening to listen to the consultation we have running currently on our English language proficiency process. I'm Madeline Connor, I'm the Senior Policy Officer at HCPC, and I've been working on this consultation with my colleagues Tom Miller, who's not on the call today, and Mark Platt, who is on the call this evening. So we've been working on the kind of consultations changes to the English language proficiency process. So we're going to go through the set of proposals that we're consulting on currently, which will change the process. We're going to run through what the current process is, and there'll be an opportunity at the end to have a little bit of a discussion, ask a few questions. So if you've got any questions, you're welcome to put them into the chat, or just wait to the end of the presentation, then we'll come to them and kind of talk about them with them. And we'll also give you a little bit of information about how to get involved with the consultation. The consultation is currently running. It started on the 16th of October, and it'll be running up until kind of mid-January. I think it's the 19th of January. So there's still a lot of time for anyone to get involved. So if you could just move to the next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so I'm just going to go through what the English language proficiency process is. So it's the process for the international applicants who want to come onto HCPC's register. It's the process for them to evidence how they can practice safely and effectively in English, which is a part of our legislation that anyone who is registered needs to speak and practice in a certain level of English. So this is about changing the way that anyone can meet this threshold. To be clear, it wouldn't affect anyone who's coming onto the register from the UK route. It would just be international applicants. At the moment, international applicants can self-declare that they speak English as a first language, or they can submit evidence of meeting a required score on the English test, which we've got two there that are our approved ones, which are IELTS and TOEFL. Or we would actually look at other applicants can actually submit evidence of passing other tests. And as long as those tests meet our standards and are comparable to IELTS and TOEFL, they are something that we would look at accepting. So our current process has been in place for many years, and we're proposing changes to the evidence that applicants can use to demonstrate the proficiency of English. And that's quite key. We're not looking at changing the threshold, we're just looking at changing how people can evidence that threshold of English. It's also important to note that we wouldn't ask anyone who's already on the register to resubmit any evidence of their English language. So this would just be for new applications using the international route. So if you can move on to the next slide, please. So this slide sets out what some of our proposals aim to do. So our proposals would hopefully align us with other professional regulators. So the NMC, the Nursing and Midwifery Council, they had quite a similar consultation a little while ago. And I know that the GMC's process, the General Medical Council, their process is quite similar to what we're kind of proposing. So it would align us with those other kind of bigger regulators at how we assess the English proficiency of international applicants. It would create new pathways for applicants who don't speak English as a first language. So part of that self-declaration that we currently have is that an applicant, if they're going down that approach, then it wouldn't be enough that they've studied in English. It has to be that English is their primary or their only language that they use day to day. It would move the application process away from subjective decision making. So it would make it a bit more consistent and kind of across the board. It would have a bit more of a focus on where applicants earn their primary qualification rather than the country of their birth or origin or their first language. And it's quite important to note that with these proposals, we do recognise that the assessment of English proficiency is complicated. It does require quite nuanced policies, and we don't look to unduly burden applicants, but we need to balance that with our need to keep public protection, our need to kind of ensure the integrity of the register that we maintain, and we need to provide certainty for service users, employers and other registrants as well. So that's what we're looking to do with our proposals. The next slide, please. So this is just a bit of a high-level overview of our proposals for change. So proposal number 1 would be ending the self-declaration of English as a first language. So we currently allow any applicant from anywhere to declare that English is their first language, and that's the language they primarily use day to day, something that we would expect applicants to assess and declare, and we would accept as evidence that they're able to practice safely and effectively. We may ask for further evidence if they are applying from a country that's not majority English speaking. However, our proposals would mean that we would look to get rid of that, and we wouldn't accept a declaration as proof of enough of their ability to practice in English. We would instead need evidence that they've carried out their primary qualification in English, which sort of brings us on there to proposal 2, which is introducing a list of qualifying countries that are majority English speaking and where the applicant would have had their primary qualification. So having that list of qualifying countries that are majority English speaking would mean that if an applicant was to apply, we would look to the country where they've gained their primary qualification, and if it was on that list, we would take it as evidence that they meet that threshold of English. So proposal 3 would be an expanded and exhaustive list of approved tests. So instead of only accepting IELTS and TOEFL, as we currently do, as our sort of approved tests, we would look to expand that list, but no longer accept ad hoc requests to approve tests that are comparable. So this would provide a clear list of examiners and exams that are acceptable which are acceptable, and sets out a clear expectation for applicants on the tests that we would accept. I should say as well, in our consultation, we do ask for feedback on tests. We've not kind of drafted up this list of approved tests yet, so we are looking for some kind of feedback from anyone who's taken a test and their thoughts on different ones. And the 4th proposal there is that we would have some mitigating measures for getting rid of that self-declaration route. So we would not ask someone who's been previously registered in one of those qualifying listed countries to re-evidence their level of English. So for example, if you've earned your primary qualification on a country that's not on that list, but you've spent perhaps a few years working in somewhere like Ireland that is majority English speaking, we wouldn't ask you to kind of re-evidence your ability to speak English. And we're also proposing whether work experience in the UK under a HCPC professional could count towards evidencing an applicant's English language proficiency. And it's important to note there would be some sort of terms attached to that, such as time spent working there. But that's just a proposal we're looking at as well. So next slide, please. So this just goes through some of the aims and the benefits of the proposals, and the benefits that we think would come from the changes. So of course, the aim of anything that we have is to ensure that we maintain public protection. As I said at the start of the presentation, it's important and it's part of our legislation that anyone on our register can practice safely and effectively in English. And our proposals would look to tighten that even further, while still setting out some clear expectations from the outset for applicants on how they can apply for registration and make the whole process a bit more smooth-lined and consistent. So, as I said again, it is quite key. We're not looking at changing the threshold for the level of English that applicants need, but we're just looking at the changing the way that applicants can evidence that. So the next slide, please. So, so this is about some of the equalities impacts that we have identified from our proposals. And it does form part of our consultation, as we do ask respondents to consider how our proposals may affect applicants from different protected groups. Obviously, with the proposal of removing self-declaration, that's going to create some barriers for some international applicants, as those who may have been able to previously self-declare for free may now have a few costs and kind of barriers incurred by having to take a test if they haven't gained their qualification in one of the listed countries. One of the positive aspects that we've identified is that applicants would face less risk of value judgments than under self-declaration, and that actually it would be, the place of origin of the applicants wouldn't necessarily come into their application, and it wouldn't be a part of looking whether they can practice safely and effectively, as under the proposals we'd be looking instead at where they have gained their primary qualification. So we are particularly keen to hear from people who've gone through that international registration process, those who'd be affected by it. As I said, those who have maybe taken an English test or have recommendations or thoughts on the English tests that are available, as well as people who have protected characteristics under the Equalities Act. So next slide, please. So we have uploaded a draft version of our Equalities Impact Assessment online alongside the consultation document, so you can see some of our findings and our analysis. And we'll look to sort of revisit that and update that once we've got the responses through from the consultation. Again, this sort of goes through a little bit some of the different protected groups that we have particularly identified as being affected by our proposals, particularly by the cost aspect that would be incurred due to our proposals. The next slide. So these are just some of the key questions that we think that might be quite useful to think about, having seen the proposals and the changes, and some of the aims and the benefits that we anticipate from them. As I say, we're particularly keen here from registrants that have been through the international route and their experiences of it. But yeah, these are some of the key questions that it might be quite useful to think about when going through the consultation. Just the next slide, please. And this is just a timeline of the consultation that we have. So yeah, as I said, it opened on the 16th of October and it will close on the 19th of January. And we've put in a little bit of extra time for Christmas, the Christmas period. So we're looking to consult through that period and then analyse the results and hopefully publish those final results, as well as an updated Equalities Impact Assessment by spring of next year for implementation. So just the last slide. So this is just some information about getting involved. That's a QR code that you can scan, which will take you to the consultation online, or you can follow that link as well. And if you have any further feedback, or if you can't use the online form, feel free to contact us at the consultation email address at the bottom of the page there. I think what we'll do now is we'll open up the floor for questions. I appreciate I have gone through that fairly quickly, so if anyone wants me to go through any of the proposals again, or if you have any further questions about what we're looking to bring in through the consultation, then now would be a good time to ask. And I think we've got a hand up. Oh, I've raised my hand myself. Anishkia, I think you've got your hand up.
I've just unmuted you, Anushka, if you want to ask your question. Alternatively, if people want to, they can also put their questions in the chat.
Hello. Oh. I think we've got a bit of echo there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. So I would like to know, will this affect on the very recently applied applicants?
So no, this will so what we're consulting on is proposals for changes in the future. So I can't give you the implementation date at the moment, but it won't apply to anyone who's already registered, who's already on the register. We're not going to look at going back. It will just be, we'll have an implementation date once we've gone through these proposals. And anyone applying after that implementation date, it will apply to, but anyone who's applied before then, it won't apply to them.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. And I have another question.
Yep.
Regarding the English proficiency. One is because if someone select the option for that like declaring the English proficiency as even the country is not English is not the major language, but I know the applicants fill in the applications honestly, but if someone is cheating and put the as no, like I mean like the as speaking the English as first language, and it's not asking any evidence to prove their language is the first language, but if it is no, you're still asking the English test certificate. So how are you going to assess if a applicant saying that their language is English as the first from an international applicant?
So I think you're talking about our process as it currently stands. So these proposals are about getting rid of that self declaration aspect. So from the implementation date, which will be in the future,
Yeah.
you would no longer be able to do that. As it stands now, you're right, anyone can self-declare, but registration advisors do tend to ask for more evidence if they're perhaps from a country where not English isn't that widely spoken. They would look to kind of evidence that further. But these proposals would look to get rid of that completely, so we wouldn't be depending on applicants self-declaring their level of English.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because this is webinar for public, right? I can't ask any other questions relating with the as an applicant, right? Is that make sense?
This is, sorry, go on.
Yeah, because the webinar is for like public webinar. There is another webinar for employees as well.
We do
Is
have,
the same.
yeah, it would be, yeah. So we have got future ones for employers.
Yeah.
I can't remember the date off the top of my head. I can find that out if that's something that you're interested in, or it is on our website, I think. It would be, yeah, we'll be going through the same proposals, so you would get the same information as you're getting this evening.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I think the key thing is we can't answer questions about individual applications that are currently in place at the moment. This is just about the future proposals that we're consulting on. I'm going to move to Pinjal next. Pinjal, if you'd like to ask your question.
Hello, am I audible?
Hi. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, I am Pinjal and I'm a physiotherapist working in India right now. I have done my graduation from here in India, but my graduation was fully in English language. So a declaration of that would help me in the proficiency, or do I need to take another steps?
So I think this is about your individual application to join the register, isn't it? From the international route, and that's not what we're looking at sort of answering this evening. What we're going through this evening is about the proposals for change. I think if you've got questions about your individual application, it might be a good idea to email into the international registration team, and they can answer them better for you. But that's not something that we can really comment or talk about this evening.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
So Hassan, I think you're next. Hassan, are you able to ask your question, or would you like to put it in the chat instead? I think we'll move on to the next one until your your mic is muted. Mark, are you able to unmute Hassan's mic?
It is unmuted. I've unmuted from this side, so I'm not sure if you can try and unmute it from his side. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yep, let's move on to the next one. Matumu, am I saying it correctly? Matumu? Your mic is muted. We have unmuted it on our side, so it might be something on your side if your mic's muted. If not, feel free.
Here we go.
Oh, here we go. There we
I'm
go.
with you. Thanks, Madeleine. My question, I have two questions. One, I realize the third one I probably can't ask because you're not addressing that. But I guess we keep coming back to the issue of, I was going to ask, how does the consultation affect current pending registrations? And am I right in saying you are saying it, some of us who are in the process of registration and the only thing holding us back is the English proficiency, won't be part of the implementation process, will still be under the previous policy? Is that, am I understanding you correctly?
I mean, as I said, I can't necessarily comment on individuals' applications, but at the moment we're just in the proposals stage. So yeah, so this is just the proposals for how we would look to change the process, and the implementation stage will be in at some point in the future.
In the future. So what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say is that future implementation date, let's say it's in July 2024, you won't backtrack. You look at new applications from July 2024. Is that,
Yeah,
am I
that's
getting it
correct.
right?
Yeah.
Despite whether the application is still under review or not.
That's correct, isn't it, Mark? Am I getting that right? It would be any applications that are made from that implementation date that would come under
going forward, not
Yeah, if,
including those under consideration.
No.
The way we normally work is that if someone has made an application, it applies across registration for all sorts of purposes as well. Once you've lodged the application, it's subject to the rules in place at that time. So there'll be a date, and after that date, we'll have the new rules. Before then, we'll have the old rules.
Okay, thank you. My next question is about the country. It relates to proposal 2, the list of countries that will be considered. And I just want to ask, is it possible to consider countries that were previously colonized by Britain who probably have English as one of the main languages? Because I'm a bit nervous about how that will get decided, and will it then go through the public again for input to say, to give any comment, basically?
Yeah, so what we're currently looking at, or what we're kind of currently proposing with that, is that we would look at countries that have a kind of 75% of people speaking English as the kind of metric. The NMC, so the Nursing and Midwifery Council, and the GMC, although I think that their list is slightly different, but the NMC in particular, they actually have a list of countries, and that's something that we would kind of look at quite a similar list of countries ourselves at adopting.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, but I mean, as I say, you're welcome to obviously answer the consultation, respond to the consultation, and there will be opportunities for you to kind of comment on that, on what you think.
Thanks, Madam.
Just to echo that, I mean, please do respond to the consultation and put that in your consultation response, because the process for deciding how we agree the list and those kinds of sort of elements of the proposals are still to be decided, including how we get to those lists. So that would be a key piece of response information and be helpful.
Thanks, ma'am. Thank you.
Caroline?
Yep, Caroline's mic should
Caroline.
be.
Okay, yep. I just saw her
Hi,
unmute.
sorry,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Yes, sorry. Actually, to be honest, I think my question's possibly just been asked by the woman who was just asking. I have a fantastic member of staff currently working as a band 4 because we are waiting on her passing her English language. And I was going to say, if this comes into implementation in the spring, would she still have to be trying to sit an English proficiency test? But it sounds like she will, won't she? Because her application's in process already in the system.
Yeah, so if it's already in the system, it wouldn't necessarily come under these. What I will say is that the implementation date is not set yet. So we're currently consulting. It will be springtime that we start to analyse the results and publish those kind of analysis of the results. And the implementation date would be sort of after that. I can't obviously give you a date at this point, but it wouldn't really be in the spring. That would be when we kind of got the analysis of the results from the consultation. So yeah, but if her if her application's still in the system and then she's still kind of going through applying onto the register, then it wouldn't necessarily meet, if these proposals come into place, it wouldn't necessarily meet what these proposals are looking at.
Okay, so can you withdraw your application or cancel your application and submit a new one as and when the new rules will be implied? So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess you could do. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just she's an ex. Yeah. Sorry, Mark. Yep.
Just to caution, so I'm not sure. We need to come back to you, or we need to find out specifically about what I mean in terms of any payments that have been made, because obviously there are costs
right
agreed in terms of submitting an application, and then there's the actual application, there's the scrutiny fee and all that stuff. So it's probably best to think that for anyone who is making an application, an international application at the moment by the route, it will be and continue to be the existing arrangements. But we will give clear notice once we've done the analysis of the likely timescale post that, once our council has agreed or has seen the responses from the consultation and agreed a way forward. So for the moment, this is very much still a consultation on proposals that may change because of the consultation feedback we receive, without a timeline for implementation because of that.
Okay, that's helpful, and I'll certainly feed back into things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Arthur, am I saying that right? Arthur, would you like to come in with your question?
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask about this proposal. There are students, international students, who are already in English-speaking countries like UK. So if they have their master's degree from an English-speaking country, so is there anything you can add in this proposal, or if under any section, like if they have master's degree in English, like not English, like they have masters from English speaking country, so is there any chance there will be any relaxation regarding that? Thank you.
So it would be that their primary qualification comes from the English speaking country, or the majority English speaking country. That's what we're looking at proposing.
But I as this is a proposal, like it's in the stage where you can make changes. So it's my personal point, like if they are in an English speaking country from for 1.5 year 2 years, and they are in that country speaking English, because if they are living in an English speaking country, they can pass IELTS test or any other test. But as you know, there are costs attached with that thing. So there should be, that's my personal opinion. I'm not imposing anything. So I'm just, asking, like if they have master's degree from a English speaking country, so does it change anything?
Under these proposals, no, because it would be their primary qualification that we would look at. Again, I would encourage you to sort of respond to the consultation and kind of put that into the comments, because that can be something that we can look at a bit further. But under these proposals, it would be your primary qualification is from a majority English speaking country.
Yeah, actually, it's a webinar, and there are proposals regarding, because this step, like making a list of countries, it was a great was a missing piece from HCPC. Like because as in many countries official language is English, and all the syllabus and all the study, like even the primary qualification, all the books are in English. So if we are not even from a major English speaking country, but all the students who are like studying, all the books are in English, like all the physiotherapy related books, anatomy, and all these books are in English. And even after that, when we go to an international any country as an international student, and we study masters, again same English, but still we have to, like, spend
Yeah.
more and more money on IELTS and all that kind of exams. So if there any test which you can provide, like which is not costly, like IELTS is so costly. Like if you see £200 for just one test. So if you can give new tests which are not that much expensive, so that everyone can easily do the test, and can easily start their registration. So there's another point which I just thought about it. So I think there should be something regarding that as well.
Arthur, could
Yeah.
I just ask?
Yes, okay.
The question you were talking about, the country you're talking about, where the training is done in English, even though it's not majority speaking English or
I'm
recognized
not
majority
talking
speaking.
about the training. Actually, I'm talking about the course, like the books.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So are you,
yeah.
which, are there any specific countries there that you were thinking about or
Countries
referencing?
like countries like Pakistan.
Right.
Yeah.
So the resources that they use to teach the courses are in English,
Yes,
even though the course
all of
itself
them.
might be taught in local language. Okay. I mean, if you put that, as Madeline said, if you can please send us a response, if you can put that in the response. I've also picked that up as some feedback from this session as well that we'll keep. That's helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
And how do I do that? I don't know about this response thing. This is my first time. Sorry.
So we've got a QR code. I'll post in the chat a link to the consultation as well, so you can follow that. There we go, on that slide, that QR code
Okay,
and the link.
Yes.
That's
Okay,
how you get on there. And I will say as well, your point about the tests and talking about there are some tests that perhaps are more costly than others. There is a question in the consultation about that, so you can leave feedback about what tests you think are good, what tests you think are bad, or however you see it. There is an opportunity to talk about that in the consultation, so I would encourage you to do that.
Okay, yes, I'll do that. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So we just move on to the next question, Nazira.
There we go.
Nazira, are you able to answer?
Hello, hiya.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you.
Actually, I'm about to make an application for HCPC, and I'm just a bit confused in between the English-speaking country and your first slide of this meeting, and the website says, even though we have English as our first language, and even though the country is not English-speaking country, we need to show more in detail, like we need to approach for the the IELTS. So just for example, say I'm from India and have done my education, everything from India, and like I'm trying to apply for a tier 2 here in UK. I still do an IELTS for the application for HCPC, or my UK NARIC certificate is well enough for making an HCPC application?
So you're talking about your application now, aren't you? Am I getting that right? Yeah. So this is about proposals to change the process. So I wouldn't be able to comment on your application now. So I would suggest any questions you have to contact the international registration team, and they'll be able to talk about it. But these are not set yet. These are proposals for change that we're looking to get people's opinions on. And so, and I think Mark there is just, oh, he was just changing his screen then. But
Yeah.
I would suggest any questions you have about your current application, we can't answer that right now. But if you get in touch with the international registration team, they'll be able to help you out with that. But this is slightly different. This is about proposals that we would look to change in the future.
Okay, so for in the proposal, by any chance, do we have any list of countries that is like, you know, they are the most speaking countries or something? You're saying that it should be an English speaking country.
Yeah.
So by any chance, do we have any list of countries?
So we've not got a finalised list of what the countries would be. As I say, we would look to kind of mirror something similar to what the NMC are doing, and they do have a list of countries that they look with international applications. But there is a question in there about whether we're getting the right idea with a 75% 75% sort of population who can speak English in those countries, or pardon me, what countries you think might be more suitable instead. So that is a question within the consultation. So again, if you have an opinion on that, and you have something you'd like to say about it, I would suggest that you answer the consultation, and there'll be an opportunity for you to kind of talk about that a little bit further.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. And then Anishka again.
Hi. Sorry, I have two more concerns. I know I have asked questions at the beginning as well, but let me explain. One is the IELTS is really cost, and if you down one part, you have to do the whole exam.
Yeah.
Even a native English speaker, even he or she has done the exam, if someone lose the one element, you have to do the whole exam again, which is not really fair. For my personal experience, I have done 13 times the IELTS to get the writing 6.5. I always got 6. So but the overall score, it's well enough, it's meeting the standards. So I have done the master degree in UK. I'm working in the UK clinical setting for 5 years, but still HCPC asking that exact English proficiency test. So it's really, I feel like if you want to change or add something into the proposal, please consider the international applicants who have done masters or PhD or whatever in UK or any like English country. Please add that one, because people are mentally down. I'm really mentally down, who is really passionate about the job, and people are leaving the profession because they are stuck in this stage. So another one is, I can't understand, because if you're going for UK, having the UK citizenship, they will consider if you have a UK master degree, that's fine. You don't need to prove that you're speaking in English. So for in my situation, I'm seeing patients, I'm writing the patient notes, it's well enough. And if my employer can provide any letter that there's no problem with my writing, but HCPC is still asking that particular exam, which is really cost for all the international applicants. So please add kind of anywhere to add, as the other applicants said, if a person has like a master degree or PhD, even I have a PhD degree, HCPC is still asking the English test, which is unfair. So it's really making people mentally down. I know there's, if you can't speak in English, if you're not fluent in English, public in a risk, we can understand. But there, in the other way, there are some professionals who are really passionate about the profession, who wants to work and who wants to get the next band or come to the practice, but still struggling, because it's like there's no any other alternatives. So please do consider. Thank you very much.
What I would say, thank you for that. And like I said throughout the consultation, we're really interested about hearing from people who have taken the test. So it'd be really, really great if you could respond to the consultation, because you sound like you have a lot of experience taking the IELTS, and you have kind of opinions about it, and that's something that we do want to capture through the consultation. So I would really encourage you to make sure you respond, Anishka, because I think we're looking for people who are coming from a similar place from you and have those opinions. So it'd be really good if you could respond. Thank you.
Also, Madeline, I'm not sure if Anishka is a member of or aware of a professional body for the profession that she is in, but it's also worth speaking to the professional body, because the professional bodies will also be doing responses as well, and they'll be looking to get feedback from people working in the profession and from their members. So that will amplify whatever comments you make to us as well.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
thanks. Yesha, you've got your hand up next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, hi. So my question is that the person who is already a member of HCPC, and while renewing HCPC registration again, like, is it due in the next year? Do they provide do they have to provide again English proficiency test proof, because every 2 years this test is going to expire?
No,
So,
we wouldn't. Am I getting this right, Mark? We wouldn't. It would be for new applications that we would look to have to prove their English proficiency, and we wouldn't be asking them to reprove it. Am I right saying that, Mark?
So when you apply, your initial application is when you tell us that you are proficient in English, or you demonstrate your proficiency, and then when you renew, we accept some of those things as being standard as part of the process of having you on the register. That continue to be on the register means that you're able to meet the standards of proficiency, and you sign a declaration. I don't sign, but you check a declaration on the renewal process that says you continue to meet the standards of proficiency, and in those standards of proficiency it says being able to communicate to a good standard in English, or communicate to a good standard in English. So that then covers that off. So you're not required to submit a new test or take new tests.
okay, so this will be only for the new applicants, not for the who already registered. Okay.
Anyone who's on the register already, we're not going to ask them to resubmit anything. These are just proposals for the future. The implementation date, if we do go through these proposals, obviously we have to go through this consultation first, but the implementation date would be well in the future. We're not looking at current applications or anyone who's on the register. These are just proposals for the future.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And the next hand up is CDG. Don't know what that stands for, but you able to unmute, CDG?
Yep, I'm done.
Yeah. Perhaps we'll come back. Should we go to Sandra afterwards? Sandra Gonzalez Garcia? Are you able to ask your question?
Yes, hi, hello. I just wanted to ask whether the new results of the consultation will be then, if there are separate conversations being held with UKBI, because you've talked about putting the standards to a similar level or similar to the NMC and GMC. And currently, when most of international applicants will need a skilled worker visa, and currently when they arrive to the English language assessment on UKBI, they have three options: either provide the test from an approved provider, and those are very limited on UKBI, be from a country of English majority speaking country, or the NMC, the GMC, and other organizations are inside the category. If you go to the skilled worker visa, it will ask you if you're a doctor, dentist, nurse, midwife, or vet. You do not need to prove your knowledge of English if you have already passed an English language assessment that is accepted by the relevant regulated professional body. What happens at the moment is that when candidates do, for example, TOEFL or medium of instruction or other English assessment approved by HCPC, then they arrive to the skilled worker visa point that they need to provide an additional exam if that is not an accepted provider. So with the NMC, they have just that last question where, because they have passed an English assessment by the NMC, they do not have to provide an additional exam. But with HCPC currently, they don't fall under that category. So we have had international applicants that have paid for an initial exam, get their HCPC registration, and then having to pay for an additional £200 to get one of the English language accepted by UKVI. So my question is whether separate conversations were being held with UKVI to streamline the process.
That is a good question. We've not had much engagement with UKVI. I don't know, Mark, if you can speak any more on it, or if that's something that we can sort of take away and perhaps even get back to you on.
I suppose the key thing is that we are independent bodies, so we are responsible for setting our own requirements when it comes to English language proficiency. So there'll be some interplay, but I think it's more that government gives due response to whatever we do, but we have to set our own standards independently. I think there have been some discussions. I'm not sure how connected we are in terms of those requirements, and some of it may be connected to things that are outside our jurisdiction, but we'll make a note of it and pick up, because I think when we've met with one of the test providers who wanted to talk to us about what tests they provide, and I think it was something that they picked up as well about this dissonance. So the simple answer at the moment is we can't say. We don't have any information to offer on that, but it's something now you brought it up, we will follow up.
Amazing. Thank you very much. That would be great, because as I said, GMC and NMC already have that part sorted, let's say, and for candidates, it's just way easier. For international applicants, it's just one exam, and it definitely will impact on the cost. So thank you very much both for your answer.
Thank you. Thanks for your question. I can see in the chat that CDG were trying to listen to your question. You say you're still muted. We have taken everyone off mute, so hopefully you're able to come back if you want to ask your question. And also Nelson Agwu, you said the same. If not, are you able to perhaps ask your question in the chat? But we have taken everyone, we've taken the
we've taken people off mute as they've come up to ask a question. We haven't taken everyone off mute. I can't find CDG on the list anymore. I did take them off, but they appear to have disappeared now. So if they are still there, if they want to put their hands up, if anybody still wants to ask a question, if they put their hand up, then I'll see them, because they'll rise to the top of the list. Otherwise, I'd say just go to the chat questions, Madeline.
Yeah, okay, so let me go. Oh, here we go. Nelson. There we go. You should be able to unmute if you try now.
Yeah.
We have unmuted you, so hopefully you're able to do that on your side. Okay, I think if you're still muted, then I would suggest popping your question into the chat, and we can come to it. I'm not sure why that's happening, because we are unmuting you when you're at the top of the list.
Should we try Nadir is also? So let me just try and unblock Nadir. There we go.
There you go. Nadir, are you able to ask your question? Unmute yourself and ask your question.
Nadir is unmuted.
No, thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Can hear you now. Would you like to ask your question, Nadir?
No, madam. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. You're sorted. Nelson, let's come back to you. Are you able to unmute yourself on your side, and would you like to ask your question?
I've just unmuted again, so that should work.
Okay, I think we'll come back to you. So let's go to Crisanto de Guzman. I'm guessing you were CDG before, so hopefully we've allowed your mic, so you should be able to unmute on your side and ask your question. We have allowed both your mics, so hopefully you're able to do it on your side.
I think they must be having problems. I think if we go to the chat and just go through the chat, and if people,
Okay.
if either of them want to put in there. So we just had Pooja pop up, but I think because the ones in the chat have been there for a while. If we go to the chat and then we come back to the.
Okay, so if I'm just going to go through from the top. So a question from Shiza. My question is that I gave language cert instead of IELTS before coming as a student that was acceptable in my university. Again, with that, I would say if there's a comment that you kind of have where you think an English test is perhaps more suitable than others, I would again encourage you to go to the consultation and put that in as a comment, because that's something that we can look at. Sijin has asked on the chat, if I score less than 6.5 in one module in IELTS, will I be able to compensate it with medium of instruction from my college in the case of international applicant? I think the short answer is, the short answer is probably can't really answer questions about specific applications. But we're not necessarily looking at bringing in kind of mitigating circumstances in that. We are looking at bringing in as one of the proposals has gone through, looking at kind of work experience in the UK under a HCPC registrant, or also if you have worked in another country that's on the English kind of list that we have, they would be our mitigating circumstances, but we wouldn't necessarily look at compensating it with other ways. So Nelson, I think this is your question. You've given your registration number and said, I've started my registration last year, then after all the verifications, my final registration was put on hold until I've written IELTS. I made a mistake of choosing no. The English is not my first language because at the time of application, my country was not enlisted as one of the countries that uses the English language as their first language. I provided proof of English from my university, but I've not been allowed to continue with my final registration. What can I do at the moment? Again, that's a question about your specific international application, and that's not something that we can really answer at this webinar. So I would encourage you to get in touch. Mark has actually pinned the contact details for the international applications at the top. So I would encourage you to get in touch with international registration, and they'll be able to advise you a little bit further, because that's not something I can really answer here. So this one I think is from Crisanto. Hello, say an applicant has a strong background of English as in part of the education system from primary to university, and English is one of the 2 official languages of the country. Will the applicant still be required to prove his English through IELTS, for example? That's quite difficult to kind of answer, because if it's a country that is 75% majority English speaking, it could well be on our list. So even if they had other official languages, so it's quite difficult to answer that question. But obviously under the proposals, it would be that they'd be on our list as being English, majority speaking English, sorry. And if they had got their primary qualification from there, so it's quite difficult to answer that without because there are circumstances where perhaps they do have more than one official language of the country. But perhaps if you have a specific example, it might be quite good to again answer the consultation and kind of put that in as a comment. Abby De Vera, hi, I have my license back home in the Philippines, but now I live in Canada, Canadian citizen, but working as PTA. Do I still need to take IELTS? So for this, under our proposals, if you were working in Canada and you were in working in a registered role there, like an equivalent registered role, it may be that we would be able to look at that as evidence of your ability to speak English. So under the proposals, you may not need to take the test. And that's something you can look a little bit more on. If you look at the link to the consultation, you'll be able to see how that would actually work under our proposals. So it may be that you wouldn't have to take the IELTS test. Claudia has asked, could you please explain about the test TOEFL? Could not be undertaken in the UK. It means it should be taken overseas. I'm not sure I fully understand your question, Claudia. I think, are you asking whether you could take TOEFL when you're in the UK or whether you'd have to take it abroad? I'm not too clear. So if you could follow that up, that'd be really good. Oh, you said at the moment I live in the UK, so is it just IELTS tests that could be undertaken in the UK? I'm not sure.
I think our requirements are those tests must be taken outside the UK. I think it's part of the application process.
Okay, fine.
I think we state that on the international.
Okay, so again, Claudia, if you're asking about a specific test that you need to take for your own international application, it may be that you actually are better perhaps looking at our website about international applications, and you might have a bit more, that might give you a bit more clarity over what you're looking for. Sandra has asked about HCPC renewal. I think we already answered that, so it wouldn't be at renewal stage. It would be, these proposals anyway, would be for new applications that are coming in. Hassan has asked, again, I think you're asking about your own application. So you're registered HCPC physiotherapist. I applied last year after completing my MSc in the UK and was still asked to do IELTS. However, a lot of my fellows from back home have received HCPC registration from only submitting English proficiency letter from the university. I think you've asked whether this could be addressed in the proposal. And again, would really encourage you to answer the consultation and to kind of respond and maybe even put in your own experiences. As I say, we're very interested in getting people who have gone through the international application route. We're interested in getting their responses back. But I think if you've got a specific query about your application, I would again encourage you then to go to the international applications part on the website. So Priyanka has said, hi, just to support what Arthur mentioned, in India, all the physio courses are taught in English. We have majority are English medium schools, so there are students who've been learning since they were 4 years old. I would be curious to know what will be your criteria to assess countries if they're English speaking countries. So as I say, our proposals are that the countries that would be on the English speaking majority list would be that they are at 75% sort of threshold. We have got some information in the consultation document, and there is a link on that. I sent a link to the consultation page, but I'll actually link to the document itself so you can go there directly and sort of read about it. But it does go a little bit further into how we're kind of put that list together. So that is sent. Where was I? So Harriet has our slightly off subject, but it's linked. Similar to nursing, I think we should seek to create an OSCE program for certain registrants such as operating department practitioners. This will eventually streamline the registration process to ensure spoken English in practice meets standards. Specifically to ODPs, it is a British registration and training. Its integrity needs to be protected. For English, I think we need a list of pre-approved countries. Thank you for your comment. And as I say, it'd be really good if you could put that in the consultation, because that's useful feedback. Pooja has said, hello, my question is, if a person is already working in the NHS healthcare setting and wants to register in HCPC, so they need to provide English language proficiency, IELTS is very expensive. Again, if you have feedback over certain English tests, that'd be really useful to hear. But if part of the proposals are, and obviously I don't know the exact situation that you're perhaps talking about, but if someone was working and doing work experience under a HCPC registrant, we might look at that might be something that they could use in their application to kind of prove their English language proficiency. And that is one of our proposals. That's the fourth proposal. So if you go into the consultation, you'll be able to read a bit more about that and kind of provide your thoughts on it. We've got a question. I'll be renewing my registration in February 28. I think you mean 2028, I'm assuming. Will I need to go for the IELTS exam? If you're renewing your registration, no. That would be, as I've said, this would only apply, these proposals would only apply for new applications. It wouldn't be for renewals. And then we've got another comment. Hi, everyone. Even though HCPC did not compulsory test of English evaluation for OT in Nigeria, however, UKVI still made it mandatory to have NARIC or ECTIS evaluation done from OT from Nigeria. Again, that would be really useful kind of feedback to put in your consultation response. Someone else has said, but HCPC does not recognise NARIC, which is frustrating. Again, we're really keen to hear about what tests you think would be a good idea to add to our list of English tests. So that's really good feedback as well. And then we've got here, I wonder why the UKVI demands this, because Nigeria is an English-speaking country with English as the only official language, and we are taught in English from nursery all through to university. Again, that's useful feedback, and if you could put that into your consultation response, because nothing is finalised yet. These are all proposals, so we're interested in getting feedback from you. And then we've got a follow-up here. Okay, so on quite a similar vein, actually, to that comment about Nigeria being quite largely speaking English. As a follow-up, Philippines, for example, English is part of the curriculum from primary education to university. Will the applicant still be required to take IELTS? And then part 2 to that question, will you consider the Philippines to be one of the countries to be part of the list of countries to be exempted from taking the English test, as we were colonised by the Americans for half a century? Hence, English is greatly engraved and used in speaking, writing, listening and reading. Again, I would just sort of repeat what I've just said, which is it'd be really useful, as nothing has been finalised, it'd be really useful if you could put this feedback into your consultation response, because we haven't finalised that list of countries yet. And so listening to or reading your responses and kind of getting that feedback would be really, really helpful.
So we do have 4 hands up in the queue, but they're all from people who have posted questions in the chat. Can we assume that people who have posted questions in the chat that we've answered your questions and you don't need to take the mic again?
Yeah, I think the only one that was quite new there is Anushika.
Yeah, I'll unmute Anushka.
Yeah.
Hi, I am again, sorry.
Hi.
Just last question. Apart from IELTS or TOEFL in the HCPC website, what are the other professional bodies which can certify English proficiency? Because it's not clearly mentioned on the current website.
Do you mean the English test that we currently accept? Is that
Not the
what
test. Not the test. If any professional body who can provide the comparable table that certify the English proficiency.
So it depends what profession that you work under. It might be useful for you to go to them. I don't know if you feel comfortable to say what profession you are, or
Yeah, prosthetics and orthotics.
Sorry, could you say that again? I couldn't hear that properly.
Prosthetics and orthotics.
Prosthetics and orthotics. Okay, there is
Yeah.
a professional body for them, so I can find that out for you.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'll post you the link to that, and it might be quite useful for you to then go to them if you're looking for information from them. That might be quite. There we go. I posted it in the chat, so hopefully you can see that. Oh, she left, so hopefully she has access to that. So we've just got from the chat, Pooja asked, could you consider UK NARIC English language proficiency statement as equivalent to IELTS? Again, I would just sort of echo what I've said, which is that this is really useful feedback, and it'd be really good if you could respond to our consultation with this feedback as we're looking at what kind of tests should be on our list of tests that we would have. So if you feel quite strongly about it, and if you've got a kind of opinion about what ones would be good to include or not, then I would encourage you to go onto the consultation and respond there. So we've got a new hand up from Drashti. I've just allowed your mic, so hopefully you can unmute yourself from your side. Oh, you just.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to have one query from Long that I do understand the English proficiency exam is really important for every professionals. But if somebody is staying for 2 years and already has done masters from UK and working in a good like a let's say in a like a government body like a NHS, so does that person need to provide a English proficiency because they are like doing daily conversation with the patients and already passed MSc or something? So is it something really that somebody needs to provide IELTS? Is this my question? If you can answer me, please.
Yeah, of course. So yes, if they're going through the international route, so if their primary qualification is from abroad, and it's not from one of those countries that would be on the English speaking majority kind of list, they will need to provide something of their English proficiency. But if they have worked in the NHS under a HCPC registrant, that will be something that they will be able to kind of use to kind of bolster their English proficiency under the proposals we have. So that is something that would kind of help them.
Okay, and is it like it's a something personally I am suffering from that I have been in this country for 2 years and I'm working as working as an NHS, like a similar post only, but just as I'm not registered yet, just because of my English thing. So I'm working just a below position, not independent. So, but other than that, is HCPC accepting IELTS or PT? Because being an international, it's not like that we don't want to appear for English exam. It's just that sometimes it's a timing. We are really here by our own. So it's like you won't get that enough time to prepare, because IELTS is not like what I'm talking right now. It's something you need to work on. So I was literally, I have been talked to HCPC members many times, but I always got mixed responses. Some people give me sometimes hope that they've got send me the send documents and they will have a look at it. But sometimes it's just sometimes they don't clear my doubt, and that's make me somewhere that's make me put somewhere in the middle that I don't know what to do now. So is it like shall I talk to once more to the member regarding my problem, or should I straight away appear for IELTS? Because yeah.
Yeah, so as I say, if it's your sort of individual application that you're talking about, that's not something that I can comment on or kind of answer questions about. And as I say, Mark has put the details and the contact details for the international applications team. He sort of pinned that to the chat, so hopefully you can see that and you're able to contact them again. But it's not something that I can really answer questions on.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm
then,
assuming that the
sorry.
hands we have still up mean that people do still want to ask questions. So do you want to go from the top of the list to give people a final go?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've answered Nelson's question, because I think you were asking about your application. I'll allow your mic again, see if you can unmute it from your side, but I think we've already answered what you were looking for. So Nelson, if you're able to unmute your mic from your side and ask, then please do always put it down. Okay, so I think his question's answered. So Pooja, I think we've answered your question from the chat, but I'll allow your mic again and see. I think you were asking about consideration for other tests, and I suggested putting that in your consultation response. Yeah.
Because in IELTS there are the 4 modules: the reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So if the people get lost in each module, if they're getting 6 in the writing, suppose, so, and the 3 of that they get 7 bands. So obviously they lost all of the mark in IELTS exam, so they have to appear again. So this is a very costly exam. I think people are more struggling with that. So I think there's any solution for I mean, if you have if I have a solution for this problem, so if you could do that, so it would be very, very nice for all of people, so that they can appear that, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I do appreciate that the costs that could be incurred by the proposals might be difficult for some people. Obviously, as I've said, we need to balance that with also making sure that anyone who comes onto the register can can practice safely and effectively, sorry. But as I say, if you do have comments about what English tests would be suitable or what you think wouldn't be suitable, then make sure that you respond to the consultation and put that in your response, because that would be very useful feedback.
Yeah, and that's another thing I just want to mention, that if you could consider the UK NARIC statements, if they are equivalent to UK degrees, and the statements of the language proficiency statement, that should be equivalent to IELTS as well. So it would be very appreciated for all of the people that who are registering with the HCPC.
Okay, brilliant. And if you put that in your response, that'll be really useful. Thank you,
Pooja. And also one thing that I would also like to mention, that they are also working with the healthcare settings, who are working with the UK, I mean, in healthcare setting in NHS, obviously. So they're also using English, I mean, into day-to-day basis. So that should be considerable, I think so. I mean, that should be a very helpful for all of that, because they're also working in the healthcare setting as well.
Yeah, definitely. All this feedback is really, really helpful. But as I say, it'd be really, really good. We need to get it in that consultation kind of form so we can properly analyze it and add it to our kind of response. So it'd be really, really good if you can respond. That the link is on the screen, or there's the QR code. I have put the link in the chat as well, and I can do that again just so everyone can access it there. But yeah, it would be really good if you could put all those comments and all that feedback into your response, that would be really helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your help.
Thank you. Thanks, Pooja. Claudia, I'm just going to allow your mic. Have you got a question that hasn't been answered already, or a comment that you'd like to say?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, yeah, I just already asked about this because on the website it says the certificate of English language is these two tests, the IELTS and the TOEFL, and but at the bottom of all these two lists, they say we do not accept any TOEFL test and score undertaken in the United Kingdom. So my question was that, so the only at the moment is the IELTS test.
So I think we had this question perhaps from the chat before. So we would want English tests to be not taken in the UK, to be taken in the country that you're kind of applying from. I'm just going to try and look at the website now to see what you mean. But to note, at the moment, our current process is that whilst we do accept IELTS and TOEFL, and they're the main two that we accept other tests if they can kind of be comparable and if they meet our standards. So that's something to note as well. But if you have a specific question on the current process, I think your best bet is to get in touch with the international registration team, who'll be able to kind of guide you through the process a little bit better.
Yeah, it's just because I live in UK at the moment, and so I live for 5 years now, and so that's why my question was related to, because in the website say it can't be undertaken in UK. So that just give me the option of just IELTS at the moment until wait for the next year if it's that it might be change with the proposals.
Okay, the proposals at the moment are still in the proposal stage, and the implementation date wouldn't be until far into the future. So if you're currently applying now, as much we want to hear your feedback, but it's not something that will necessarily have a sort of direct effect on your application now. As I say, I think your best bet for any questions or anything like that about any current applications or the process for now is to get in contact with the international registrations team, who'll be able to help you better.
Yeah, I'm not an applicant at the moment. I planning to apply in the future. That's what it's just to confirm at the moment is the IELTS test, just that test to provide.
Yeah, so at the moment, the proposals that we've gone through today or this evening are just proposals. They're not confirmed. That's why we're having this consultation, because we want to get feedback on from people who've been through the process or service users, or we want a range of different people. So if you're looking to apply in the future, it'd be really difficult to say at what point these proposals may come into effect. And it would also be really difficult at this point for me to kind of say if they might change or be amended according to the feedback that we get from the consultation. So I can't necessarily answer about how exactly it will work in the future, because these are just at the proposal stage.
Just to add, Madeline, so the TOEFL test is required to be taken outside the UK. We do accept, our international registration team do accept other certificates, but they must be equivalent to the scores provided by IELTS and TOEFL. If you have a specific test provider or certificate and you're wondering if that's equivalent, if you send the details through to the international registration team, they can come back to you and advise.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I know the details are in the chat, so you can just click on those and that will take you through to the contact details. You can either speak to them on the phone or email them, although email is better because you can put more detail.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia. So if we
Madeline, just to say we're 10 minutes short of 7:30.
10 minutes, so we've got 3 more questions, but let's just leave it at that. I think if I think if yeah, that should be enough. 10 minutes to go through these last few questions. Hopefully anyone else's questions have already been answered, and you can still get in touch with us on that consultation at HCPC UK email address if you have anything further. So Anishika, would you like to come in with your question? I've allowed your mic.
Hi, Madeline. Sorry to be a pain. Just to just to get the clarification that you send the BAPO link. So because I was asking any other test providers who can certify the English proficiency. So in my profession, there is the link that you said, the BAPO. Can BAPO provide the kind of a certification which can certify my English proficiency? Or
I think you asked for the professional body who you might be able to get some
not
information.
the professional body. I ask because in the website is say that IELTS or the TOEFL. So is there any test providers who can certify the same level, which can certify the English proficiency?
So at the moment we haven't. The main two tests that we accept are IELTS.
Yeah, no, because I had a phone call with the international, the team member of the international applicants. That she said some people use the Duolingo, and they can provide like a comparable table which shows that this score is matching with the IELTS score.
Okay.
Duolingo. When I check the Duolingo at the same time, it's like a it's not like a, it says that English test provider, but it's like a, it's not, I don't know whether it's official or not. So because I asked several times, I had a phone call like for maybe 40 minutes today.
Yeah.
And I asked the UK ENIC as well. But she said we can't accept the UK ENIC. So I was because she said if any test provider can provide a comparable table which shows that it's matching with the IELTS score, that they are accepting that.
Okay, so yeah, so that's the current process, is that we accept IELTS and TOEFL, and as you say, if there's another test provided that can be sort of equivalent and comparable, that's something that we would look to accept. But I can't really answer whether we would accept it because that's the international registrations job.
I understand.
So yeah, unfortunately, that would be a question for them really to kind of go through with you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we're just going to take, I think, the last question from Sifian, Abbas Sifian. I've just allowed your mic, so hopefully you can unmute from your side. Have you put your hand down?
Good evening.
Oh, no,
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, here we go. I can hear you.
Yes, though I joined the meeting late, but I don't know whether my question has been answered. And why the need for changing English proficiency at this time?
So I think, oh, sorry, carry on. I think I've interrupted you there.
The second question is that if I'm going to apply for the HCPC now, do I need any English test? Because since from my nursery up to the university level, I was taught in English language, and the official language in my country, that is Nigeria, is official language. Even in my current in my practice, we use English language to communicate. So does that affect me if I'm going to apply now?
So if you're applying now, no, because these are proposals for how the process might work in the future. So if you're applying at this moment, no, it wouldn't particularly affect you. We'll have an implementation date once we've gone through the consultation and we finalise what we're actually going to do. We will have an implementation date in the future, and any applications from then will have to meet whatever process we kind of refine to. So no, your application, if you're going through the application now, this is not something, well, I can't speak for your application. I can't speak to the details of it, but these would not be proposals that would necessarily come into play for you.
Okay. So the other part of the question.
Yeah.
Why does HCPC thinks of changing the English proficiency?
So we're changing it. So we did run through this in the start of the presentation, and just to let you know as well, we will have a kind of recording of this presentation, and we will be able to send that out to anyone who's on the call. But basically we are, so here we go, the proposals would, they'd align us with other professional regulators. So the NMC have recently gone through quite a similar consultation and change of their process. And so it would align us with other regulators like the NMC and like the GMC, which are the Nursing and Midwifery Council and the General Medical Council. It would create new pathways for applicants who don't speak English. And basically what we mean by that is that we would have a bit more of a clear-cut kind of way of applying onto the register. It would move the application process away from subjective decision making and make it a bit more consistent. It would have a focus on where applicants have earned their primary qualification rather than their country of birth or their origin or what their first language is. And really, as we kind of really want to emphasize, as much as we don't want to kind of burden applicants with lengthy and costly process, at the same time we do need to make sure that anyone coming onto the register from anywhere can practice safely and effectively in English. So we're kind of balancing the two and making sure that kind of public protection is kind of at the forefront of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we've come to the end of our questions now. As I say, I would really encourage any of you who are still on the call to make sure that you respond to the consultation. The link is there. I have posted it in the chat a few times, but I'll post it one last time. And if you do have any questions, please get in touch on the email address there, consultation@hcpc-uk.org. And yeah, thank you everyone for attending the webinar this evening. I hope that you found it interesting. I hope it's answered any questions that you had beforehand. And I look forward to receiving your responses to the consultation.
Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.